Hello everyone, my name is Gabby, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super review. This time we're reviewing episode 29. The Inter-Universe tournament will begin in 5 days' time. Champa and Vados start preparing the arena and gathering their fighters, while on the Universe 7 side, Beerus and Whis go off to find Monarcha, their pick for the tournament, and the strongest opponent Beerus has ever fought, even stronger than Goku. But once they leave, Bulma starts quickly constructing a radar to find the Super Dragon Balls. She assumes that there must be a set of Super Dragon Balls in Universe 7 as well, and she doesn't trust Beerus to let him get his hands on them. So, what did I like about this episode? For one, Champa and Vados. Once again, every time these guys are on screen now, they seem to just totally steal the show. Their interactions are just so funny. Just Champa's constant laziness and like vanity and just all his ego, and then Vados just constantly trying to flatter him, even though she's like way more competent than he is, but she's always just telling him that he's amazing, even though he's this really fat, lazy cat god of destruction. These are these new characters, right? And they've only really been introduced for 2 episodes, and I already feel like I understand everything about them. And I think that's just a really good job on the writers' parts for just making them feel so distinct. And even different from Beerus and Whis. And it's they're not even proper, evil villains. They're just antagonists in that they want the Earth as well as Universe 7 and Beerus and Whis. But I just feel like they're just really interesting characters, and they've had barely any screen time, and I already think they're interesting characters, so I think this is a good sign. But really, it was sort of the bulk of the rest of the episode that had me even more interested. The entire concept of this episode was, well, first of all, they had Beerus and Whis just sort of chilling on Earth and just trying to work out sort of what to do, and everyone's just kind of relaxing sort of for the 5 days before the tournament, and they're just sort of doing preparations and stuff like that. But then I think the really interesting thing for me was basically Bulma's interactions with Beerus and also the rest of the cast. In that it turns out Bulma still doesn't really trust Beerus. She thinks that if Beerus makes this joke that, if he could get the Super Dragon Balls and he could just wish for the destruction of the universe because they could probably do that. And Bulma immediately says, okay, I don't trust him. I don't trust this cat god of destruction. He actually might destroy the universe. Who knows? The only reason he didn't destroy Earth was because he liked the food and he kind of liked the people. But he's really not exactly on our side, inverted commas. He's on Universe 7's side, but he's not exactly good. And I just think that's so interesting. This is something I didn't expect Dragon Ball was ever going to do. Moral complexity. Characters who aren't just good or evil, but there's somewhere in between. And Beerus is definitely one of them. I know when Dragon Ball Super started, some people said they didn't really like how Beerus was acting sort of more evil, but I actually kind of enjoy this. That, it really shows that despite all of the arcs they've gone through and the sort of character development inverted commas for Beerus, he's still not exactly a nice guy. And that's not just because he's the god of destruction. His character is just, he's a god, and he thinks he's above everything. He thinks the Earth's fate is really up to him because he likes the food, so he's just going to take responsibility. And, the characters on Earth are being well, can't we decide things? We don't want things to be destroyed without our knowledge. And Beerus is he doesn't really care. He likes characters, he likes the food, but he doesn't even necessarily like the people. Even Goku he sometimes finds annoying. Really, this was one of these episodes where I realized this kind of thing could only exist if it was anime first. And that if this was a manga first, you would never put something like this in because it would just take up too much time, and it would honestly be kind of boring because not much is really happening other than just characters sort of talking about other characters. I mean, especially in a show about fighting like Dragon Ball. The kids would find this incredibly boring. And even if it was manga first and then they adapted it to the anime, with the sort of schedule of Dragon Ball Z, they would not have put an episode like this in, because in filler, they don't have as much of a really real grip of the characters like they do in this, where they probably have sheets of everyone's personalities and what they're like and what their history is and stuff like that. So this kind of episode is an episode that can really only exist in Dragon Ball Super, which is actually kind of awesome. This is an episode that almost validated Dragon Ball Super's existence. Oh, and one last thing, Tights. Tights showed up in this episode. She made her very first anime appearance. If you don't know who Tights is, go read Jarko the Galactic Patrolman. It's not it's not very long, and it's really awesome, and it was made by Akira Toriyama. But yeah, so Taita's there, and now she's a character, and she has her own character design and everything. She's also voiced by the same person who voices Bulma, because of course that is how this show works. If you are a relative, you are voiced by the same person. As for what I didn't like about this episode, it was really just one thing, and it was kind of a nitpick. They summoned Shenlong. So that means if you want to be really pedantic with the timeline and trying to work out everything, that means that from the Resurrection F arc, at least sort of 8 months would have had to pass for the Dragon Balls to technically be active again, for them to be able to summon Shenlong, and I am fairly sure 8 months has not passed. I mean, they might, but they didn't act like it's been that big length of time. It feels like it's only been like a month, maybe 2. This isn't such a big deal. I mean, even the Dragon Ball manga itself, the Dragon Balls have been kind of iffy over like the time periods. We can always work out that, I mean, after the Dragon Balls were used for the first time, they were active again after 8 months. But at the same time, sometimes I just wish Toei would try and be a bit more consistent with how much time has passed, and also maybe sometimes give us explanations as to how much time has passed. I don't know, maybe that's just too much to hope. Like really, I just know that this was there because they wanted to clarify that they couldn't just use Shenlong to go and find where the Super Dragon Ball is, and they didn't really care necessarily the time was passed. They didn't choose this time period in particular because then the Dragon Balls would be active. It was more they just wanted the Dragon Balls to be active, and if they're going to keep continuity or not, we don't know. We'll find out. As for next episode, well, we know that Goku, Vegeta, and now Monica are part of the tournament, but that still leaves 2 more characters, 2 more people who are going to fight for Universe 7, and it's pretty much up to Goku and Vegeta to decide that. If you've seen the main visual for this arc, you already know who the last 2 fighters are going to be, but this episode is basically going to be really interesting because it's going to be, just judging from the preview, it's going to be sort of an expanded version of them justifying those 2 choices. And, out of all of the cast members that they can choose from, they're going to choose these two particular people. And I'm just wondering what explanation they're going to give as to why they're choosing them. So that was Dragon Ball Super episode 29. And I honestly really enjoyed it. It was a really strange episode in that technically there wasn't that much happening. But there's sort of this new kind of filler. It's actually, I'm not even going to call it filler anymore. There's just this new kind of stuff that Toei is trying to put in. Actually sort of subtle, new kind of character interactions, things that we would not have been able to see in the 90s, and things that we can see now because they just understand this show so much better. And it's actually just really interesting. This was one of the episodes where I watched this and I said, okay, this is something Dragon Ball Super can do, and this is something that Dragon Ball Super was made to do. And I just want to see more of this. I really want to see more of this. Honestly, at this point, I'm kind of almost dreading for the tournament to start because then we're just going to get into standard fights. I want to see everyone just talking around and doing character interactions, and I know that's the wrong reason to be watching this show, but whatever. So this is Gabby, signing out, and I'll see you all next week. Bye, guys!